Are you struggling to manage both employees and freelancers efficiently? Well, you are not alone. Balancing the needs of your full-time team and temporary hires can be a challenge. That's why in today's video, I'm going to walk through how to streamline the process of managing your team, whether it's part-time or full-time employees or freelancers. This powerful project management tool is so great at being able to help you handle the unique requirements of each group, from onboarding, collaboration, and beyond. I'm going to show you how to set up your ClickUp workspace to accommodate the different workflows and information needs of your team, ensuring smooth operations and efficient teamwork. We're absolutely going to go through sharing and permissions and how to really manage the difference between the two groups and the different nuances of ClickUp members versus guest permissions. Whether you're dealing with project timelines, task assignments, or communication, ClickUp's got you covered. If you're ready to master the art of managing a diverse team, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click that bell icon so you never miss a beat. Let's dive in. So starting from the very top, we're going to first go through the hiring process when it comes to managing the hiring process for team members, whether they're full-time or part-time employees, or it's freelancers. So we have a hiring workflow template where I want to walk you through what this could look like. We have heard so many times from our clients, they despise the LinkedIn hiring process. They just want it to be seamless, where they could see all of their applicants and information in one place, which is exactly what this hiring template does. So this video, I want to really cover a lot. So I'm going to glance over these things. We have individual videos on our channel and more to come that dive deeper into each and every one of these templates and how they work. But today, like I mentioned, I just want to show you visually how this can look and all the different ways that you can manage your team. So hiring workflow, it could start with something like a form. So we have, for example, the executive assistant application form. Let's say we're hiring for an executive assistant position. This is actually a public form, so someone doesn't have to have a ClickUp account to access this form. You can put this on LinkedIn. You can put it on social media platforms or on Indeed, and they can actually view the full job description here, which would also be a document that's attached to this list. So again, the goal of ClickUp and managing your team, whether they're current or future team members, is to have everything in one place. So you could see the different views here. You have the job description. That job description is a public document linked on the application. They're then able to fill in all of their information. You can customize this to the position and the role. And then once they submit that information, they'll then go into an applicant pipeline where you'll see there's a new application submitted. You can then move this person to in consideration after you go through and actually read all of their responses in the custom fields. And so now this is basically going to be like an applicant portal. You can even comment to yourself or different team members and give your thoughts on this person. So then you're really not logging your real-time notes as well in this pipeline. So you can also do really cool things in terms of automations, like when someone submits an application, then it gives them like an autoresponder, and say you put them in round 1 interview, round 2, or even not a good fit, it could shoot out an email being like, hey, we really liked your application. We'd like to offer round 1 interview. Here's the link to schedule. Same thing with not a good fit. It could be like, we decided to go with another applicant at this time, or you weren't exactly what we were looking for. We'll keep you in mind for other positions, whatever it may be. So you can even like the admin portion of it where you're like keeping the applicants involved in the process. You can do so much with this pipeline. So I want to touch on that, and then you can easily, as you see, just move the applicants from status to status. You can even have automations like when a new application is submitted, then it will change the assignee and put the due date so that will then show on your calendar to go ahead, and the manager will go ahead and review that application, give their thoughts, they can add a rating, etc. So that's the hiring workflow, how you can manage that process. Now, you can also create something similar if you're looking for freelancers. So maybe these freelancers have different rates, or you're seeking them out. You're not necessarily putting an application. You can create a similar type of pipeline that's like, here are people that we're considering, here are people we've had discovery calls with, here are their rates, etc. And it's going to look a little bit different, of course, because it may not be an application form, but you can do something similar in terms of this pipeline sort of feel where you're keeping it super organized. The other benefit of this is, say you're hiring for that position again in the future. So whether maybe it's not an EA position, maybe it's a sales rep position or an account manager or a specialist, a designer, say you're a design agency, then you can keep this as a database for, say you had a few applicants that were high in the running, but you were only hiring one at that time. Then in the future, you can reach back out if you're hiring again and see if they're still in the market for a new job. So again, so many benefits to having the hiring process mapped out like this. Now let's move on to onboarding. So what happens now when they become a team member? You offer them the job and we move on to onboarding. You're going to want to make sure that they are set up for success in terms of not only what their job is, what their role is, what their expectations are, but also introduce them to your tools and your platforms and your team and how you work. So in that case, we actually have two examples of this. The first one is our team onboarding template. So in this onboarding template, you could see there's not only a list of everything that management has to do to onboard this team member, but then you'll see these are the things that the team member can go through in terms of getting to know the company. So like the core values, how your role fits into the mission, FAQs, meet the team, etc. And then you can train them on ClickUp. This is key. If you are using ClickUp, you want to make sure you set them up for success. I'm going to go through setting up their dashboard, not step by step, but showing you how you can set up a dashboard for them in an everything view, making sure they're set up, they know exactly where to manage their calendar and their tasks, going through the expectations of their role, additional resources, etc. So this is really like meant for like day one, week one, but then you can also create a 30, 60, 90 day plan where you're also saying, okay, here are your targets and objectives for the first 90 days of working with the company. Because although yes, they are hired, there's really this built-in trial period, making sure that they are a good fit for your company and your role. So those are the examples of hiring and onboarding. Now let's walk through team management. So now once they become an actual team member, how do you manage all the different things in your team? So I'm not going to go through granularly every single list in this team management folder, but these are templates that we do have available. And so you'll see, okay, once they become a team member, you can use ClickUp to actually store all your team information. So you can have a team database that's public to the team to see what's everyone's role, their position, when did they start, what's their general information, email, phone number, etc. And you can absolutely, customize this to what information you want the team to see. You can even have this general info form. So when they're onboarding, they fill this out and it automatically funnels into this database. You don't actually have to do the manual data entry. You can even see where all your team members are around the country and the world, which is really awesome. So as you can see, there are really three main ways that I always say that you can use ClickUp. You can use it for task management, project management, and data reporting. This is really one of those data reporting database style lists just to keep everything organized in one place. So that's the database. Then let's talk about, okay, this is the general information, but what about their sensitive information, like their banking, social security, whatever, that type of information? Well, then you can have a private list, and we'll get into sharing and permission shortly, where you can have the payroll information form that you send to them. And this is where they fill out all of the information that is sensitive that you need and can store in here. So then they're going to be in, active team member. Again, they're going to have all of these custom fields that apply to them that are filled out in here. And then you're going to have that in one place. I clicked on the template. So here you'll see this one has all of Jefferson's fake information in here. So those are two examples of database style. Then you can also have different things like managing your team meetings is super important. We actually have a whole other YouTube video on this, as well as managing your company calendar. And these are actually 2 free templates that we give away. I'll link them in the description below. And so you'll see how, these are 2 huge things when it comes to agency and company management in terms of keeping the team on the same page. What are the meetings that we have upcoming? What are the agendas, the action items, and then the company calendar? Who's requesting time off? Who's going to be out of office? Making sure resourcing and scoping for projects, everyone's on the same page. So then lastly, I want to show you a couple different forms that you can also do when it comes to team management. So you can have an expense form. Maybe you will expense things, whether it's office supplies or, insurance or whatever it is. They can fill out this form with their email, the date, the cost, attach the receipt, add any comments. And then you can have automations that once this is submitted, it's then going to assign the manager or whoever's responsible for, putting that expense through and paying for it, and put a due date on there as well. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed as I'm showing you all of these examples. Number 1, take it step by step, and we absolutely have resources for you. If you want all of this plugged into your ClickUp, you can always contact us at desilvalife.com. Also know that as you're setting these things up, the goal is that it does not make more work for you, but it makes less work. Everything is streamlined. Things aren't getting lost in Slack or email. They're just automatically assigning the person, and then it's going on their calendar, and they just have to, do the expense and then mark it as paid, and you're good to go. The other thing is maybe it's not expenses, but maybe your contractors, you have them submit their payout. So for example, we use this for our YouTube editor. We pay per video. So at the end of every month, they submit the payout form with the screenshot or details about, what videos they created and then what the total payout is. Then Jefferson will go in, that will be assigned to him, he'll pay it and then mark it as paid. And then again, database style, we'll have all of this as a database to see what we've paid out for when, etc. And then really quickly, you can also do things like IT support tickets and bug trackers as well. You can do so much, and you can even make this your own and create other forms for processes that maybe you have just in your business. But as you can see, in terms of team management for your active team members, whether they're employees or freelancers, ClickUp is so incredibly powerful. So now let's get into sharing and permissions. So obviously if you have full-time team members, part-time, and then you have freelancers, the things that they need access to are gonna be different. So let's talk about member versus guest permission. So if you go into your workspace settings and you go into people, you're gonna be able to see how many members and guests you have. You can decide if you want them to be a member, guest, or admin, but I highly recommend if they are someone that's on your team that needs access to every single thing in your ClickUp, every space, every client, etc., besides things that are privated, then you're going to want to add them as a member. So for example, our full-time and part-time team, they are all members. And if there's something like team sensitive information that we don't want them to see, you can go into sharing and permissions, make private, and then just decide which people you want to be able to see this list. So whether it's a task, a view, a list, a space, if it has this lock on it, that means that is not going to be accessible to anyone unless they are added to it. So the other thing is, in terms of members versus guests, you cannot add guests to spaces. You can add them to folders, lists, or tasks. And then on this sidebar, they're going to see shared with me. And so, for example, if you add them to the team management folder and then you add them to the marketing platforms folder, they'll just see those two things on their left sidebar. So when would you add a team member or freelancer as a guest? It would make sense if they don't need access to your whole entire workspace, but really just a select few places. For example, our YouTube editor. They just help us with YouTube editing individual videos, so they do not need access to our entire workspace. Number one, we'd have to pay for that cost. Number two, it'd be overwhelming for no reason. So what we do is just add them as a guest to that list. Our content team, we add them as a guest to the marketing platforms folder because they need access to everything underneath. And so we'll click on the three dots, click sharing and permissions, and then here I'll do admin@desilvalife.com, enter. Then you're going to want to make sure you put as guest. You can choose their guest permissions as well. So if you just want them to view this, if you want them to be able to edit, comment, or have full access, guests do have a lot of permissions where they can really act as a member. You're just giving them access to a specific place. So I hope that clears things up in terms of the difference between guests and members and the use cases of adding team members as a guest versus a member. So next, let's talk about communication and the power that ClickUp has when it comes to team communication, whether it is with your employees, part-time or full-time, or your freelancers. So we actually use Slack at DeSilva Life as well and ClickUp. They're an amazing pair together. You can also integrate the two as well in the App Center. So make sure you do that if you do have both. But they have very specific purposes. So Slack we use for one-on-one chats with people, and then general communication like our hashtag marketing channel, hashtag general chat, because ClickUp does currently lack that feature. But where it's so powerful is, for example, say we're communicating about this specific YouTube video, then I can come in here and be like, at Nina, can you give me an update on this, etc., enter, and then we can chat back and forth and have the log about this specific video or task. And then each time we're commenting back and forth, you'll get those notifications in your inbox. So I am very religious about checking my notifications and making sure that I'm in the loop about everything I need. Now, of course, we always get the question, this happens to us, what if something is urgent, right? It's so much easier to just throw it in Slack. We will put the comment always first in ClickUp. We will then copy this link and then add that link to Slack and message that person and be like, hey, can you check out the comment I made on this task? That way we're directing everyone to ClickUp. Everything's staying in ClickUp. That way we have the log of updates of what happened in that task. The other really cool thing is, say you're collaborating on graphic design for an image, which we do a ton of graphic design work within DeSilva Life, then you can actually click on the photo that's been uploaded to this task directly and add a comment. Say, can you fill this in, don't mind my typos, with white. So you can see the collaboration on the individual items as well is amazing. So those are just a couple key examples of communication inside ClickUp and how powerful it is. Now let's wrap up with a more advanced feature that's going to make your life a whole lot easier. So I know I mentioned this a little bit, but I just want to quickly touch on the power of automations. Like I mentioned, we have so many clients that come to us and they say, Christy, I got ClickUp because I know it's supposed to make my life easier. My agency is growing and expanding and we need systems. But now I find myself managing it half the time when I feel like it should be doing the work for me. And that is a huge key and alarm sign that it is not set up properly, because it absolutely should be making your life easier. A key piece to this is, number one, you need to make sure that your workflows are set up where it's all encompassing. Like, for example, your Instagram list is going to be different than your project management list and so on. But also, when you really start growing your company, your agency, your team, you want to be leveraging automations. So just showing you one key feature, one example automations. For example, say, when I'm going in the Instagram list and I move this, our designer's working on this, and then they move it to ready for review. We want our team and managers just to go into the task, it shows up on their calendar, they do their thing, and then they move it to the next status, and then ClickUp works its magic. So in automations, you can see that with this, let me do this from scratch, you can create an automation that when the status changes to ready for review, it's then going to reassign the person that's responsible for reviewing it, let's say me, and change the due date, let's say for 1 day later. So we'll do 1 day after trigger date. So now Nina does her thing. She designs the carousel reel, whatever it is. She's going to then move this to ready for review, and then it's going to reassign me with the due date of the next day, and then it's going to show up on my calendar. So actually, lastly, what I want to mention is now that you have all these workflows set up and running, your templates, your automations, you want to make sure that you are setting your team up for success and they have places to view only what they have to work on that day, week, month, etc. So there are 3 main ways you can do this. You can teach them how to use their home, and they can absolutely customize this to see, what's going on, what's assigned to them, etc. You can create team member dashboards for them where you add task widgets and then filter out, that this is the assignee is that specific team member, the due date is today, the due date is overdue, due this week, etc. And then they can just have those individual blocks so they can hone into and just drill down into specific things that they have to do during that time period. And then lastly, and certainly not least, my favorite way to view my things are in an everything view calendar. So you can also create, let me go into month mode by clicking M, a calendar that the assignee is that person. You can have a calendar for each individual person, so like Christy, Jeff, Andrea, etc. And then it's going to be showing up with the things that just they have to do. So they could see it in week mode, they can time block, they could see it in day, in month, 4 days, etc. And then if they need to, they can also move things from day to day. And this is going to make sure that they see everything that they have to work on and keep it crystal clear and organized. So those are just a few of the many, many things that you can do in ClickUp when it comes to managing your employees and freelancers. I hope this video was helpful for you and giving you those tangible examples so you can see the power that ClickUp has to run your agency and team. That's how you can utilize ClickUp in just a few ways to be able to manage your employees and freelancers like a pro. Are you ready to revolutionize your agency's operations? At DeSilva Life, we've empowered hundreds of agencies and teams to become seamless, efficient powerhouses with the power of ClickUp. Visit desilvalife.com/contact to connect with us today. Let's build your success together. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a beat. With that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.